Welcome to The Good Pod. Today's podcast is presented by Dr. Barry Napier. If you'd like more information, please visit our website, christiandoctrine.com.
Happiness and joy, are they different? Christians talk about happiness and joy without thinking about their meanings. Some think there is a difference between the two conditions, but is this true? What is happiness? We must admit that happiness does not always last long. The moment comes, we enjoy the feeling, and then it disappears again. Perhaps you are made happy by a person or a job, or a hobby, a song, a piece of art, a favourite food, or a surprise. We can even be happy about sin in ourselves or in others. In other words, we are talking about an emotional reaction to something we like. It is momentary and fleeting. On the other hand, we can know almost continuous happiness with, say, our spouse or children or our own achievements. We feel pleased with these things. But the happiness can disappear when the object of our happiness fades or is gone. That is, happiness is rooted in the human being and our soul. So, what about joy? Christians know happiness, I hope, but we can experience a far deeper thing called joy, which arises from the Spirit. This kind of experience appears to be a deeper happiness, and for me the two things are not really that separate. Rather, joy is a more expansive and longer-lasting form of happiness. Joy is itself an emotion, but one that is heartfelt and a result of God's intervention, rather than a mere human reaction to something we like. So ordinary happiness comes from within. True joy comes from God and encourages our spirits. Happiness is when we feel good and satisfied. Now the problem here is that wicked people can feel happiness when they sin. A wicked man might feel very happy if he sees a Christian getting his car stolen, because he hates God and Christians. He might feel happy to see someone else suffer privation or illness. And serial murderers feel elation when killing people. So happiness per se is not a very good way to measure how we feel when we relate it to God. Joy is a deeper feeling, a happiness we feel even when a good time is overshadowed or obliterated by evil. It tends to delve right down into our innermost being until we know the peace of God. Perhaps we might say happiness is like a gold-covered silver, but joy is solid gold of the best quality. Both are good, but it is joy that prevails and can significantly cause us to trust God and see spiritual growth. Thus, joy leads us towards God, and God fills us with trust and faith. So if there is no joy, it shows a deficit in our faith. Many mature Christians testify to an inner deep joy even when their whole world seems to collapse, and perhaps they lose everything. Christians fed to the lions had an unshakable inner peace and joy in the Lord, though they knew they were soon to die. After all, they could hardly have been happy about being mauled. In such scenarios, joy is gladness that belong to God. In itself, this is a spiritual gift. So, while many differentiate joy and happiness, there seems to be no real difference at all, except that joy appears to be deeper than happiness brought about by fleeting earthly things. Both are forms of peace with God and beneficial, but joy is much deeper. Its depth takes us to a solid foundation, whereas happiness is skin deep and evaporates when tested. Yet, how many times do we hear sermons that try to say joy is better? For me, the difference is from God and depends on what God wishes us to know or do. In ordinary terms, we can be made happy by an ice cream, but in godly terms, we are made deeply joyous by knowing God is with us. Such knowledge gives peace and tranquility, even in the face of troubles. If there is no peace and calm, then our claim to have joy or even faith is in doubt. And then we come to texts such as James 1:2, which says we should be filled with joy when we have been given trials. This is not because we are happy with trials and severe testing, but because we know that when put under such stress, we will learn endurance, which leads to a better frame of spiritual mind, pleasing to God. At such times, our faith is stretched to near breaking point, and then God sends relief and cessation, and our spirits rejoice beyond ordinary happiness. So what we see is that our real happiness does not depend on circumstances and outward or inward prompts to make us smile. On this earth we see many long and powerful rivers, but underneath the earth there are many rivers that no one sees. Though we cannot see them, they run nevertheless. Thus we can say that joy and happiness are both true and valid in our lives, and that each applies to different things. But both are forms of happiness. This is probably why so many of us get confused with the two words and think that one is better than the other. Happiness gleaned from sin is obviously bad and false. Only a sinful mind can find a worthless happiness in sin. Look at Hebrews 11:25. But joy is more reliable, though it is still happiness. Joy is a result of having good fruit. Galatians 5:22. Therefore, such joy is spiritually good and pleasing to God, and that satisfies our soul. We can say then that even if a person is joyous, it may not be acceptable or valid. It depends on the source of his joy. If the source is sin, then it is fake, and we will be happy with superficial or earthly things. But if it is of God, it is true and valid, a gift from God for being obedient. The end of sinful joy is hell. Joy of and in the Lord drives us onward to want more joy, lasting longer. In this we are experiencing what we will know in heaven, where all sorrow and tears will cease, and when joy will be permanent and overflowing. Isaiah 35:10. So, what is the conclusion? We can get joy and happiness from very different actions. If the action is sinful, then the joy or happiness is false, though felt as an emotion. A godly happiness may be a lighter emotional form of joy. Joy is itself an emotion, but one based on God's mind, rather than on benefits we perceive to have gained. And even more joy is known to Christians whose lives are turned over to God, and whose spiritual fruit has been given aplenty. Such deep joy shows itself in calm and peace and quiet, and a settled spirit. We obtain these fruit by obeying the Lord. So, happiness and joy for genuine Christians are much the same, and vary only in depth. The deeper our faith, the less frantic we will be as we rest in Christ. Are we easily spooked by troubles and bad circumstances? Do we react badly to them and enter sin in the process? Then happiness will elude us, and you will be easily diverted from God and calm. On the other hand, when presented with problems, do we stay calm, be rational, have hope, though things rage around us, and speak quietly without heated arguments? Then we have joy. Can you see the difference?